we just screened Fight Club this year. One of the most bro-y movie out there. Straight dudes love this film. I doubt if any of them know that it's based on a book written by Chuck Palahniuk, who is a queer novelist.
Probably not.
So the idea that, like, you know, about people my age and a little bit older grew up watching Fight Club, and they're holding on to these Tyler Durden elements, and it's almost part of their identity and identity of their masculinity. And to know that came out of this gay writer's head in Portland, it's kind of it tickles me. It tickles me very much.
It's kind of a mind fuck.
We need to be able to, it's a mind fuck.
You know how some of the most radical creative acts come from places of protests? That's exactly where DR Mann-Hanson's journey with Cinewild begins. Instead of sitting quietly while a major sci-fi movie was backed by a notoriously homophobic author, DR and a friend in Dallas flipped the script, screening The Fifth Element, a queer-affirming film with a queer costume designer as a deliberate alternative. That spark set Cinewild in motion more than a decade ago, turning protest into a sustained celebration. What's so compelling about Cinewild isn't just that it showcases queer cinema, but that it highlights the queer artists behind the scenes, the makers, the creators whose identities have often been erased or overlooked. DR's philosophy, the identity of who makes the art, matters as much as what story is told. When you see queer audiences laughing and living in films made by queer creators, something shifts. It's not just passive viewing, it's collective belonging. DR is about more than movies, though. His background in theater shapes how Cinewild embraces the full experience. The education before the show, the after party as engagement, and the vibrant conversations that happen in between. It's about creating safe, brave, and even transgressive spaces in a cultural climate that's often hostile, especially here in Texas, which DR calls a front line for anti-LGBTQ attacks. But Cinewild pushes back by staying unapologetically itself, using film as a tool for joy, reflection, and activism. You'll hear DR speak openly about vulnerability as a creative act, about the necessity to sometimes make a fool of yourself in service of authenticity. He's committed to queer legacy that doesn't shy away from discomfort, but leans into curiosity and connection, fostering a community that welcomes radical honesty alongside laughter. So buckle up for a conversation that's warm, irreverent, and deeply rooted in queer resilience and creativity. Because with DR Mann-Hanson, it's never just about film, it's about forging a home for queer voices, both on and off screen.
DR Mann-Hanson, thank you so much for joining me on Art in the Raw.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you here. We're going to talk a little bit about Cinewild, the project that you've got going on for queer LGBTQ plus focused cinema. And Cinewild began kind of as a protest against Orson Scott Card's homophobia when you screened The Fifth Element instead of Ender's Game. What was that moment like, and how did it set everything in motion for Cinewild?
You've done your homework, my friend. Thank you.
I have.
Yeah, I love that our origin story is like so much of great American creation and queer creation. It comes out of a sense of protest. So there was an organization in New York called Geeks Out that wanted to organize people to create alternatives to seeing the movie Ender's Game. It's a great fucking book that's been adapted into a movie. Unfortunately, the book was written by a giant homophobe who had lots of vitriol for our community. So Geeks Out wanted to create alternatives to seeing the movie the opening weekend. That's how you can really get people to see and hear you, is to hit them in the bank account. So especially on movies, opening night weekend, if we can get people to not show up opening weekend, that sends a clear message to Hollywood that these projects should not be greenlit. So Geeks Out was doing that. I was a part of them before I moved back to Dallas from New York. And my friend Daniel Villarreal and I wanted to put something together here in Dallas, a Skip Ender's Game event. And he knew Barack Epstein, who manages the Texas Theater. So Daniel set up a meeting with Barack, and we talked to them about screening a sci-fi movie, in tandem with Ender's Game,
Mm-hmm.
but a sci-fi movie that had a queer artist on it, and the costume designer of Fifth Element is queer. So we thought that would be a great, not only just a great alternative, but also an alternative with an FU saying, we're not going to show your movie, we're going to show a movie that highlights a queer artist
Mm-hmm.
in its film. So we did that. We had a great turnout. And then the theater came to us afterward and said, hey, you all did a great job with this. We've been trying to put an LGBTQ film retrospective together. Would you all want to take that on? And when I moved back from Dallas, I went to a midnight screening at the Inwood Theater, and somebody introduced it. And I sat there and I was like, oh my God, I want to do this. I love film. Film has always been my first love. I'd love to curate a film series and introduce people, talk about why we chose the film, that kind of thing. So that seed had already been planted, and then just organically, out of protest, out of doing something for our community, the Texas Theater reached out to Daniel and I and asked us if we wanted to take that on, and we said yes. And so January of 2014, that was the beginning of Cinewild. We did a screening of Paris is Burning. We organized a community ball afterward where we invited people to just walk and have a good time. And so that's the origin story of Cinewild. And from the beginning, I adamantly believed in the 3 E's: education, entertainment, and engagement.
Mm-hmm.
I'd worked in a lot of nonprofit theater, and hearing what theaters do, their vision, mission, values, has kind of got into my DNA. And I think it's always important when you're doing something new, creating something new, that you have a vision and it's grounded in some type of value or who you are. And so the 3 E's kind of became our calling card: education, entertainment, and engagement. So from the beginning of Cinewild, we would have a pre-show conversation with a local artist, activist, organization that somehow complements the film.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'd watch, that's the education. Then we'd watch the film, that's the entertainment. And the engagement, and this was kind of forced on us by the theater. They wanted to create an after party where we could keep people around to drink and have a good time. And I'm not mad at it. It
Got to
did
get those refreshment revenues.
Absolutely, and we are in a capitalistic country right now, and that's not a bad thing. I think if you do it with intentionality, if you do it with purpose, it can be beneficial to all parties involved. And so yeah, that's Cinewild. That's the 3 E's, and we've been doing that for 11 years now.
Yeah, that's awesome. What was the crowd reaction and your personal feelings with that first event like?
I was nervous as hell because I was doing I was kind of the MC, and I'd never really done that before. I mean, I knew I could do that. I have a theater background. I think I can interact and manage a crowd pretty well, but this is the first time doing it in this level, on the scale. And it was the first time that Cinewild had come about. So there's a lot of just pressure and concerns about it, but we pushed through it. We had a great time. We had an incredible panel of judges. Farrah White, who's a local actress, Rod Gray, who is the drag queen Patti LaPlace, and then Buck Wild, who is on TV right now in the King of Drag reality show. So it was really cool just to have all these amazing Dallas local people involved in that. And that just, it set the groundwork for us to build off of. I think having such great big names in the community there doing this work, bringing people together for Paris is Burning, it set the bar achievably high that we just kept striving for each month. And I think we've been able to really hit it out of the park in a lot of ways.
What inspired you to bring that fusion of film and lived experience of the ball to Ender's Game? Or did you do
that wasn't Ender's Game.
You
Yeah.
did the ball for Paris is Burning.
Paris is Burning, correct. Ender's Game was just us doing a screening, but just us being extra. I dressed up in the Lilu Dallas white ribbon outfit when she first comes out of the thing. I purchased that off of Amazon, and I think I dyed my beard orange. And so I was dressed like that, and somebody donated a poster of Fifth Element that we auctioned off to people. So just doing the screening in our particular way inspired these ways to just be a little extra, because that always helps to get people in the door. Um, and so that, plus thinking about what we wanted to do and how we wanted to make Cinewild what it is, the 3 E's, it just makes sense for engagement to do an actual ball. And what I love about Cinewild too is, like, I I really pride ourselves on really trying to take the message and the themes of the film and apply it in everyday life. People are going to watch Paris is Burning, and I guarantee you someone's going to be like, oh, I wish I could do that, but they're not going to, for a variety of reasons. And it's great after a couple cocktails, after you're seeing a film like that, after someone like me is barking at them, trying to get them to do it. And, there's a little bit of guilt, there's a little bit of flirting, there's a little bit of fun that's involved in it. And people's inhibitions come down a little bit, and they'll go out there. And being able to see people just completely vulnerable, in a space like that, it's an absolute gift. You see people tapping into something that they didn't know they had, or that they were too scared to show. And I would say our audience is one of the most forgiving and supportive and loving audiences out there. They're there to have a good time. And so it's really cool to see what happens when you get people to come out of their comfort zone just a little bit.
Yeah. Vulnerability comes up a lot on the episodes that I've recorded in the past, and about how vulnerability is really important for being able to express yourself the best way. So I agree wholeheartedly.
Absolutely. It's,
Uh,
if you're not willing to make fun of yourself, how are you going to get to your art? If you're not willing to make a fool of yourself, how are you're stifling yourself. And
Agreed.
no art, nothing, in my opinion, nothing can be created when you're actively in the way of it. It gets forced, it becomes disingenuine. Nobody really likes it or wants to be around it. So you've got to pull yourself out of it, and be willing, not always just to make a fool of yourself. You have to be willing to make a fool of yourself, because
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes you're not a fool, but we create these mores around us, and insecurities around us, and fears around us, that will prevent us from stepping into our authentic selves in these authentic moments. So yeah, it makes sense, especially in you've got a salon in the raw. Like, I mean, vulnerability is going to come up one way or the other. Why aren't we
Exactly.
naked right now? That's my
Why are we
question. I've been
naked?
watching these podcasts. I'm like, why are we naked? This is a nudist podcast, a nudist salon.
Well, yeah, I should record one totally naked sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Do it right now.
So you mentioned your connection to, I think you said it was the owner or the director of the Texas Theater.
Yeah, Barack Epstein.
Yeah.
He manages the Texas Theater.
So that was your in for the Texas Theater, but what is it about the Texas Theater that makes it a great venue for Cinewild? Did it already have an LGBTQ film history that you could tie into, or what makes it a great space?
The Texas Theater has always been a big advocate for films in general, and it doesn't really matter what it's showing. These are film bros that love what they do, and so they will highlight. They love John Waters there. They've been screening John Waters for years.
Mm-hmm.
Pedro Almodovar. I always get his name wrong. Sorry about that. So if it's a good film, the Texas Theater is going to show it. Now, in the past 11 years, I think that we have educated them on films that they normally wouldn't do. We've brought that in, and kind of showed them that there's an audience for it.
Mm-hmm.
And every now and then there's a little bit of, pushback, the idea that they don't think the movie's going to sell, which is true. We never know. And some of these films that we do are a little obscure. But, our mission, I talked about this earlier. The mission of Cinewild is to show every film where an LGBTQ individual worked on the film. If you show me a film where the best boy was a lesbian, I will show that film regardless of the content. I mean, within reason. I'm not going to do a snuff film, or, we can't show too much pornographic stuff at the Texas Theater for a variety of reasons. But if you show anybody that says, hey, I'm a queer artist that works in film and I made this movie, we're going to show it regardless of the content. We want to highlight queer artists that have been working on film, that have been working on film for centuries. We want the reason why we choose a film to be because someone who worked on it is queer, not just because there's a gay character, usually played by a straight person, in the film. We want to highlight queer artists making film, and they've been around for forever. James Wales, who directed Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein, was an out gay director at the time. We're talking about 1927. He was out. That was very rare at the time, and I didn't know that until Cinewild came about. And so, us preparing for the films that we screen, it's educational for us, and I love that element. It's not just about educating Dallas or our audience; it's also educating ourselves through the process.
Have you screened Gods and Monsters? That is all about James Wild.
You did, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I
We
love
did
that
that a couple
movie.
years ago. It's a great movie, and it still
It's
holds up
really,
today. And
yeah, one of my
I've said
favorite films.
Fraser. I've been saying Brendan Fraser was overlooked by Hollywood for the longest time, and now we know why. There's a little bit of a drama there and some tragedy there, but he's back in a lot of ways. And I mean, ever since I think Bedazzled, it's a tour de force of acting from him. It's such a great movie. I love him so much.
Oh, what drove that curatorial philosophy that you have about films with not just queer themes, but queer creators?
Yeah, it's a great question. Um, my my first love has always been movies. And then when I got into acting in high school, I had this very unsubstantiated belief that if I was to be a real, authentic actor, I had to be in theater. And so I definitely went, all into theater, going to college for it, and working in theater for very long. So that was my acting thing. But to me, as a young kid, it just felt like Hollywood was a sellout, which is such bullshit. And I believe that now. But that's what I believed. Um, and one of those reasons was because I never saw myself reflected in cinema. Um, the gay characters at the time were best friends who had no substance, or they were villains, or they were dying of
Sad.
AIDS. Or it's sad, yeah. And we've heard this analogy all the time. It's nothing new. Um, but because of that, I wanted to flip the script on its head. Finding films and drawing that connection to our community that not everyone always knows is really important to me. Um, we just screened Fight Club this year. One of the most broy movie out there. Straight dudes love this film. I doubt if any of them know that it's based on a book written by Chuck Palahniuk, who is a queer novelist.
Probably not.
So the idea that people my age and a little bit older grew up watching Fight Club, and they're holding on to these Tyler Durden elements, and it's almost part of their identity and identity of their masculinity, and to know that it came out of this gay writer's head in Portland, it's kind of it tickles me. It tickles me very much.
It's kind of
And
a
so
mind fuck.
for me to be able to, yeah, it's a mind fuck, yeah. And so for me to be able to be like, yeah, come out to the Fight Club. We did that this year in March, and I know that there were people that had never been to Cinewild before, and they were a bunch of straight dudes. And for us to be like, hey, we're glad you're here, and the reason why you're here is because of a gay dude who wrote this novel that inspired this film that we all love. And that movie.
What was their reaction?
I don't know. I mean, it's not like no one came up to me afterward and told me anything, or I never saw any reaction. It's more about putting it out there. What someone else does with it is their own journey, and I can't control that. But if they were there and they were listening, they know that Fight Club is the brainchild of a gay dude, and that's really cool.
So there's a little bit of a activist rationale behind
100%.
some of the films you pick.
Yeah. Yep. And I've used this platform a lot on that stuff. When we did, we screened Birdcage. Last year we did Birdcage. It was going to be later on in the year, but I learned that the Reagan movie was coming out. The Reagan movie was coming out, and so we switched gears. We talked to the theater. We brought in Birdcage early on, and we talked to Lee Daughtery, who owns Alexander's, because the movie is based, with two nightclub owners. And so we wanted to bring a local queer nightclub owner out. And we wanted to highlight the atrocities that Reagan did to our community during that time period. And this was another idea that like, hey, don't go see this Reagan movie that's coming out right now. Come see Birdcage this weekend. And if you have to go see the Reagan movie, you can do it next week. And so that, going back to our roots, protest and activism, and Lee Daughtery is a huge activist here in Dallas. So I'm always trying to use our platform to highlight those things, to be subversive, to be transgressive. It's actually, I'm on the process of making Cinewild into a nonprofit, and I'm a little bit nervous sometimes because I can get very political. And although nobody cares about really the nonprofit status for churches and other organizations, so why should I be held to that same
Well,
status?
in the
Um,
Supreme Court, I think or somebody just said that maybe it was a executive order that said that churches can now endorse from the pulpit without impacting their. So there you
they
go.
always have been.
They always
So
have
that's the
been.
idea too. Like, it's so crazy to me that, like, this time that the only ones playing by the rule book are the Democrat and the liberals, and because of that, we're kind of like shooting ourselves in the leg when
Sometimes.
people are just going apeshit crazy with whatever they want for their own agenda. So, I'm a little bit nervous about that, but I would love for them to come for Cinewild. We're a nonprofit. If I say something political, I'm going to be like, look at the church down the street. Go talk to them first, and then come talk to me. That's not how that works, but whatever.
One would like to think that that would have an impact, but um, so let's talk about your background a little bit. You have a BA in theater and 20 years as a theater maker. How does that background prepare you to create Cinewild's approach?
There's a natural intersectionality of just the acting element. So a love of storytelling, whether that be on the stage or in film, really informs that and fuels that. It helps me when I am engaging with the audience as the MC or the greeter, or when I'm leading a Q&A, helping me to connect to my body and my voice. Allows me, through my training in theater, has allowed me to, I don't say own a room because it sounds very uh, patriarchal, but like it allows me to be comfortable in my own skin. Now there's a lot of nerves behind it, and there's a lot of work that I've done to get to that point. But after 11 years of doing this and just my stage work, I can walk onto that stage with a little bit more confidence than um, other people, so to speak. So that has informed me well here. And it just teaches you how to tell a good story and how to look out for a good story and critique a good story. I think, we're talking a lot about, art here and in your podcast in general. And I think one thing that we have lost in our culture is a critical eye. Um,
Oh,
I
agreed.
think most reviews and people who are talking about content, um, it's a pendulum of complete and utter just like destruction of their art, or not diving well enough and just kind of stroking their
Skimming the
ego,
surface.
skimming the surface and making sure that they don't sound like a bad person. They don't want to be the Simon Cowell. And I'm like, there's got to be a happy balance here, y'all. It's okay to point out um, where something didn't go right, as long as you back it up with why you don't think it went right and maybe a suggestion. Just saying like, oh, that was a stupid story. That's not, get out of here. So that the idea of like kind of elevating how we critique art and content and movies and theater, I think needs to be raised a whole lot more, and people need to come at it from all sides, not just your own agenda and what you're feeling, but to go a little bit deeper and not just to skim the surface, like you said.
Yeah. Did you also do work in San Francisco, New York, and Dallas? I know you've done Dallas. You've done theater stage stuff here in Dallas before.
Yeah. I've worked at Bishop Arts Theater Center. I've worked at Theater Arlington. Recently this year, it's been actually a pretty big year of theater for me. I worked at Garland Civic Center and Theater Frisca. Yeah, I worked. So when I moved from New York to Dallas, when I moved back from New York to Dallas, it was a rough transition for me. Just not really having a strong connection to the theater scene here, and so I
Mm-hmm.
ended up entering the Dallas theater scene from the administrative side and worked at Water Tower Theater as their front of house supervisor. And then that got me the job of the patron services manager at Dallas Theater Center. And so I know a lot of actors and directors and theaters now because of those two jobs. But Dallas does not like to let people grow, in my opinion, when it comes to theater. If they meet you in one way, they're going to keep you in that way. So unfortunately, many of these people saw me as administrative, uh, on the administrative side of theater. And I did a really good job, if I may
Okay.
say so myself. But So no, but I mean, I did work at Watertown. I did work at Dallas Theater Center, and I was in the capacity as administrative theater, which I'm not mad at. It taught me a lot, and I'm grateful for it. But it did kind of set me up as an administrative theater person and not a creative acting performer. I'm breaking that right now a little bit, which is great, but it's really hard to kind of come out of people's preconceived notions of who you are.
Yeah.
Want to strip down and connect with a community that celebrates real bodies, real stories, and unforgettable adventures? Check out Go Naked Magazine, a bold, body-positive magazine for gay male nudists. And if you're ready to turn the page and travel, Go Naked Travel curates incredible clothing optional getaways around the world. Think sun, skin, and seriously good vibes. Subscribe today at gonakedmagazine.com and gonakedtravels.com.
Okay. Let's talk about challenges and risks a little bit. Cinewild kind of faced some backlash over Anti-Mame because of some of its racist caricature. How did you navigate that criticism, and what did you learn about it?
So I learned that we cannot get comfortable when it comes to education. Anti-Mame was a movie that we do almost every December. It's a big crowd pleaser. There's a big part of the movie is set in during Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a long movie. December is jam-packed with a lot of people's events. I actually have come to hate December just because everyone's trying to, have their holiday parties and get in before the holiday season. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And so I just got a little comfortable, and we would not do education for Anti-Mame because it's been around so long. It's beloved by so many queer people that we just would put the movie up. We'd have no education or engagement. It's kind of like a, hey, happy holidays. We're glad you're here. Let's just have a good time watching a beloved film. And so we did not do education on that part, and that's our mistake. So we learned that we can never get comfortable when it comes to education, and that we should be a little bit more intentional and mindful about looking at films through today's lens and not making excuses, but also not censoring. Because it's really important to me. That whole adage of it was a different time is like, it's bullshit to me, because respect, dignity, love, compassion are timeless attributes that should have always been gifted and given to people. However, we do have to look at the context of the historical elements of these films being made, and our responsibility. And again, it's from the very beginning of what Cinewild is. We need to bring that educational element in. So now, since then, going forward, we always do a little bit of kind of like trigger warning, so to speak, talking about words that are used,
Mm-hmm.
moments and situations, just giving a little bit of heads up without trying to spoil the film for people who haven't seen it.
Gotcha.
So that's what we learned from there. How we approached it was I did a town hall, so to speak, at Union Coffee, and we invited the person who blasted us on social media, and we opened it up to our public, and we had about 9 people in this little room, and we talked through it. One of my collective members, brought in the historical elements. I will say this whole thing was brought about by some very young, motivated individual who was trying to make a name for themselves, to the point where they recorded what they were saying in the meeting, and they were going to, I assume, use that to try to leverage it. As most situations happen, this person is kind of disappeared from the ether, which we're very grateful for. But there's so many different ways to approach situations like that. Do you give it merit by acknowledging it, or do you ignore it? And I got to tell you, like, I'm not going to ignore it. If somebody's feeling a certain way, let's invite them in. Let's have a conversation.
Smart.
We put this in our post too, the idea that if you're uncomfortable at Cinewild, you're welcome. Because when we're uncomfortable, to me, being uncomfortable is an invitation to reflect on who we are as an individual and what our values are. If you are not okay with being uncomfortable and taking that time to reflect on who you are, then you don't belong at Cinewild, or, in my opinion, society. Get your shit together, come out, but be ready to have that mirror. As you're showing a mirror to us, be ready to look into the mirror yourself. And
Agreed.
A lot of people are not doing that. And so I'm happy to sit down with anyone and have that conversation. I'm happy to create space for people, because at the end of the day, most people just want to be heard. And it does not cost me anything. Well, I guess it did cost us money to rent that room at Union, but that is a cost that I'm willing to do within reason. And at the end of the day, I think it reflects uh, better on our organization for doing something like that than if we just ignored it. But we're also a small organization. I know there's like very large groups out there that get a lot of hate mail and stuff, and you can't answer them all. So, talk to me in 5 years if we're still doing this, if we've grown the way I hope we're going to grow. I might not be taking on all those opportunities. But until then, if we have the capacity and the bandwidth, I want to engage with our community. That too is like this was a queer person who had some very valid concerns about
Yeah.
the representation of Asian individuals in the
And there
film.
are some valid concerns about that.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
I think the way Cinewild, I, obviously we both live in Dallas, so I was here when all that happened, and I thought Cinewild did an amazing job of acknowledging the challenges, bringing the community together to talk through those challenges, um, and not skirting it under the rug. And that's what you have to do when these things happen. So I think you did a great job.
Thank you, David. I really appreciate that. I think we did as well, and it bode well for us, though. Nothing happened because of it. Um, I think we said we would not show Auntie Mame again. I think I might take that back. I think in the future we will, just with a little bit of more context. Because at the end of the day, we're choosing to focus on one element of this fantastic film. We're not talking about the amazing things that Auntie Mame did for her nephew and the community. We're not talking about how she brought her nephew out of a very horrible, gross marriage and reminded him of who he is and how to be a better human being and how to get back. So like we also have to remember too is like what are you taking away from the films or the art that you're looking at? Because what you're taking away is a reflection of who you are. And again, that's an invitation to reflect on where you are. Are you depressed? Are you angry? Are you walking away because of this, because of something that happened in your life? Or is it just activating you because of it's an unjust representation? And how are you going to engage with that? Is it keyboard warrior? Is it anonymously? Are you going to be willing to stay curious and listen? Again, these are the values that I think we all need to reflect on who we are, just like we do with businesses and what we've done with Cinewild. My hope is that more people will create their own personal mission, vision, values for anything that they create, art wise, organizational wise, and just who you are as a human being. Because when emotions are high, if you don't have a strong sense of your identity and what your values are, you're going to lose yourself and you're going to lose some battles in there. And you're going to cause a lot more pain and suffering for yourself and the people around you than if you
Hmm.
can just take a breath and be like, my value is curiosity. I'm upset right now. How do I channel that upsetness, that anger in a curious way that can lead to uh, a conversation or a dialogue or understanding?
Yeah. It's a very mature way to approach it, but I think today's society of social media and some of those other things just doesn't lend itself towards that. So
Especially when we've lost our ability to, again, have a critical eye, understand satire. All of these things right now are being thrown out the window, and it's just people yelling at each other. And I'll be honest, I've yelled at a lot of people, and I still do, and I'm not happy about it. I'm not proud of it. Um, so I appreciate the mature comment. Whether or not I lean into it as often as I would like to is my journey and might be where I'm at right now. But I agree with you. And I'm hoping, and that's one of the reasons why I'm, sharing it right now. Like now more than ever is we need to have conversations about who we are as individuals, what our identity is, and what our values are to help guide us through these very tumultuous times, especially for queer people.
yeah, and especially in Texas, because Texas is kind of the ground zero for a lot of anti-LGBTQ attacks.
Texas and,
Um,
Texas and Florida,
so
yeah.
it's Texas and Florida, yeah. So you're putting this on in a environment that on the outside can be hostile to what you're doing. How do you position Cinewild like against that as a counter narrative, maybe?
I think by staying true to who we are and not letting it affect us too much.
Hmm.
We're very lucky that Texas Theater is a great partner. They've been supportive of us from the beginning. They come from a place of yes. within reason, as we all should, and I'm very grateful for that. We've never had any issues of, I'm knocking on wood, and I'm very grateful for this, but we've never had any issues at our screening with somebody coming out and being an asshole or being untoward toward any of our audiences or collective members. And I think because it's at a historical site like the Texas Theater, because Texas Theater has a great reputation for showing film, we're very lucky to kind of ride those coattails and expand those coattails with new queer offerings. Um, so I think it's funny. We were programming for this year. We were having one of our programming conversations, and one of our collective members was really concerned about our current president winning the election, and how they felt that we should completely revamp how we are approaching programming in anticipation for this potential administration. And to me, I'm just kind of like, one, there's no need to borrow worry. We don't know. They were correct. He did win the presidency again. But I don't think we need to counter that. I think we need to stay true to who we are. I think
That's
if
how you
we
counter
get
that.
exactly, if we reacting, and especially reacting out of fear and anger, in my opinion, is never the wisest choice. And there's a lot of that happening right now. And I would say more reacting out of fear than anger. I think queer people in general have a lot of really good historical evidence of acting out and reacting in anger. It's the fear element. When we let fear
Hmm.
take over and we let that drive our choices, um, it's not the wisest choice, in my opinion.
No, it's
So
obeying in
I'm not.
advance, which is one of the things you're not supposed to do.
What's that?
I said it's obeying in advance, which is one of the things you're not supposed to do in the growth of a fascist regime. Don't obey advance. Don't change what you're doing because you're afraid of what they're going to do.
And it's happening a lot right now. And I think what we do at Cinewild, or at least what I try to do, I've got a collective of volunteers right now that are wonderful, that we're trying to grow, and I'm trying to pass on these ideals to them, but also allow them and give them space and empower them to make it their own, but with this foundation. And that foundation that I have been using is to find ways to bring all of our screenings and our guests and our engagement back to the reality that we're in. Again, once you know your identity, you know your mission, vision, values, you know who you are, you can ground your work in activism, and call people out and call people in.
Hmm.
Once you know what that is and you're leaning into who you are, it's more authentic. It is more attractive to your audience and the people around you.
Hmm.
Authenticity is king and queen, in my opinion. People want to see that, the vulnerability we talked about earlier, but like authenticity as well. If you go up there and you're not connected to what's happening right there, people feel that, people see that, and whether or not they come back is up to them.
Yeah. What have been some of Cinewild's biggest breakthroughs over the past 11 years?
The first time we screened Anti-Mame, I think we had over 300 people there. That was really exciting. That was a great event. I like the smaller things, like we screened Best in Show this year, and afterward we did our own little goodest goodest boy, goodest pets competition, inviting people to do some silly dog stuff. And we had a participant there who was exploring their trans identity, and through coming out and being a dog, whatever that meant for them in that moment, being a pet, whatever that meant for them in the moment, really gave them the opportunity and the platform to really explore their gender identity. Maybe for the first time in public, I don't know. And that was fucking heartbreaking. Like, just not heartbreaking, heartwarming. It was just beautiful to
Heartwarming.
see. Yes, it's very heartwarming. And so those moments, like, to me, like right there is one of the whole reasons why Cinewild exists. I think our fourth film, we did High Art, a lesbian film. No one came to the theater. I wasn't there. I think we had 4 people in the audience. But one of those people told my producing partner at the time that they hadn't been out in like a year and a half, 2 years. And the first time that they came to a movie theater was to see High Art. And for, we this was our 4th screening in, and it was kind of a failure because there's only 4 people there. But But when I learned that one of them had not been out socially in quite a while and chose to come to Cinewild because of the film that we showed, I was like, success, we're done. Like, this is why we're doing what we're doing. So that to me is really important, seeing how, my community, my people, respond to these moments and these pieces of art that have been created for us. Um, and just in general, like being able to see these uh, being able to see these films with the audience that it was intended for. Because normally, when these films come out, you go to a movie theater, it's a mixed audience, and that's great, that's good. But when you see Best in Show with a mixed audience, and then you come in with a completely queer audience, it changes the vibe, man. And like the movie takes on a whole new meaning and a whole new experience. So being able to see a movie with the people that it was made for, or I'm being a little generalizing there and taking some creative license, but these queer films that are beloved, when you get to see them with an audience of queer people, it's really a different experience. And I love seeing that and hearing that and experiencing it for myself. Seeing a film that I love, at home, I come into Cinewild and there's 75 other queer people that are laughing, speaking along. It's really it's affirming and it's beautiful.
I love that. You're creating safe spaces for people to come and be vulnerable and experience stories written by other queer people such that they can experience it in a way that they might not have had they gone to
Yeah,
a mixed
that's
audience.
that's the hope. That's the goal. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Does Cinewild rely on grants and volunteer support?
We do now. Thankfully, we have a collective of volunteer members that I am empowering to do the monthly programming, while I work to make this into a nonprofit, create a board. I'll be the president of the board. I'll be going out doing community engagement and trying to build our presence online and in the community. Um, Couple 4 years ago, I learned about Arts Activate, which is a program by City of Dallas that will give money to local artists. And what I love about this, and I don't know if other cities do this, but what's great about Arts Activate is you can apply without being a nonprofit. So artists that are creating murals that might not have an organization behind them or a nonprofit behind them can apply, um, present their vision, go through the very lengthy application process, and can get money from the city directly. We are not a
Oh, wow.
nonprofit right now, but we have been getting anywhere between $6,000 to $8,000 from the city of Dallas every year, which helps us program the first 6 months of every year, every one of our seasons. We call them mini seasons, and that allows us to pay the theater. Because I'll be honest, you asked earlier, like what is so special about the Texas Theater. For the first 7, 8 years, the theater would pay the licensing fee. Now they get all the sales from the movie and the bar and the food, but Cinewild would not have to pay for any of those licensing fees, but we don't get any money, which I'm not motivated by money. So that was never part of it.
Hmm.
I'm learning that we've got to maybe kind of take up a little bit more space in that area. And
Yeah.
I'm
You
okay with
still
that.
have administrative expenses and stuff you got to pay for.
Yeah, correct. And we always had pre-show guests, and I'd have to be like, hey, can you come out for a free movie ticket and 2 drink tickets? And I'm so grateful and honored and touched that most everyone would say yes. But now we get to say, hey, come on out. Let me give you, $150, $200 for your time, your energy, your expertise, your talent. That feels really fucking good. For me, be able to, I started something that is now putting money in queer artists' pockets on a monthly basis. That's fucking crazy to me. I that was never a goal of Cinewild, nor did I ever think it was going to be where we are, but it is where we are. And that just gave me the taste for more, which is why I'm wanting to become a nonprofit, where then we can take on a lot more donations from the community and allow us to pay people year round. Maybe take some more riskier things, create merchandise, fly artists in from out of town. Um, that's a future goal with becoming a nonprofit.
That's awesome. So after 11 years of Cinewild, um, what what legacy do you hope it leaves for queer filmmakers and audiences?
It communicates very clearly that what makes us different makes us creative. What makes us different makes us powerful. I never want to hear an filmmaker, actor, director ever have to question sharing their identity. And that is changing a lot right now. But again, me growing up, they were not out of the closet. You know, we sat there being like, wink, wink, Nathan Lane, wink, wink, Rupert Everett. Now we've got Matt Bomer. Now we've got Zachary Quinto. We've got people that are coming out in their full authentic selves, showing and telling us that that's the best way to do it. So that's my hope. And that's another reason why we screen these films. Like I want to choose a film because somebody who worked on it was gay. That's really cool. Who cares about Martin Scorsese? Did you know that the sound mixer was a lesbian? We're showing a movie because of her, not because of Martin Scorsese. That's really fucking cool to me.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I hope that's one of our legacies. I've always envisioned Cinewild as being kind of an unspoken like Andy Warhol factory. My hope is that when people come out to Cinewild, they'll meet a new artist at the bar getting a cocktail. They'll talk about the film. They're like, "Oh my god, that was so funny." They'll get to know each other, and then those two make a fucking film that we're going to be watching in years to come at Cinewild. That's the hope and the legacy. You know, community has always been at the heart of what I do. I think that's why I got into theater initially as a young artist. It's why we opened up my business with my husband. Everything that I do is intended to serve um, first and foremost my queer community. But then after that, because we do this so well, because queer people know how to create a safe and brave space, other people cannot help but be attracted to it. And so serving my community first eventually serves the entire community, in my opinion. But it has to be known that you're here because I'm queer, she's queer, we did this together, we opened this up, and we wanted you to be here. We invited you in here, but don't forget who we are. Don't forget that we're here. Don't forget that we are creating things and doing amazing things that need to be recognized.
Hmm. How do you foresee Cinewild's influence spreading? And what advice would you give other queer film programmers?
I would love for Cinewild to create uh, a queer film festival here in Dallas.
That'd be awesome.
I'd love, yeah. I think we've talked about it for a while. I think that's the next step with becoming a nonprofit will be to be using that money and that influence to create that space. Um, so that's what I kind of hope on that front. For any queer artist out there, anybody going out there, I would say, um, don't be bound by the idea of what art and artist means. I really wrestled with that as a theater maker and a community space maker. My art is space making. And that's hard to quantify. That's hard to talk about, especially when people don't show up because then they don't get to experience the art. My art is ephemeral. My art is uh, um, uh, it's a moment in time, and you being there is part of the art. Your contribution, your space, your energy influences and feeds into that art. Um, but it felt weird when people would talk about, oh, I'm an artist because I paint on a canvas. I'm an artist because I play the piano, and that's all legit. Everyone can get behind that and say, yes, good for you, artist. But I'd sit there and be like, I'm an artist that brings people together, that uses Cinewild and film to bring people together. And so I would say, don't be bound by other people's ideas or definitions of what art is. And I'd say, but even before you get to that point, you got to know who you are. You got to get back to
Hmm.
your mission, vision, values. You have to understand who you are, your identity as an individual. Once you get that, you'll be able, like, the doors will open for you. And so, any queer person out there listening, know who you are, spend time, reflect on that, explore what that means, experiment what that means, and then listen to what you've learned in those moments to define your art and to inspire your art, and let that be whatever it is, man. Like, is your art hugging people? Figure it out. I would love that. That'd be so fucking great. I'm a hugging artist.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
show
going to
do
want to
it.
hug.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do it. And I guarantee you, if someone's going to spend the time and energy into it, you're going to get a hug from them. It's going to be the best hug of your life. But
Absolutely.
do it. Let's not limit ourselves. You know, I think queer people in general have one of the many reasons why we're here on this earth is to inspire people to fuck the system up, to disrupt what's going on there. Do something never been done before. If someone's always going down this road, turn around and go the exact opposite and figure out what that means to you. More people will start following you when you go your own path and if you continue what other people have been doing for centuries.
Yeah. What do you hope that your own theater work and activism will inspire in other future queer artists? What's the future for DR?
Well, I hope it gives them permission to do it. I hear a lot of people talk about, oh, I wish I could do that. Or I want to do that. How many times do we know people that say, I want to do this? And they're sharing that with you. And it's great. It's over a drink, it's over dinner. But what happens later? It doesn't happen. For a variety of reasons. I'm not trying to shame anybody here. But I hope, you know, when people see me do what I'm doing, I hope it gives them permission to do what they want to do. Um, and I hope it gives them permission to act up and act out, speak up, especially right now, man. Like, I know it's this very scary time, and people are afraid and concerned, but we can't let that um, stifle us and hold us down. We have to walk through those emotions. So
No.
start working through them now, y'all. You have to acknowledge it, create space for it, feel it, but then walk through it and get out of it to find out how you're going to change. I think Joan Baez says the antidote to um, uh, fear or tyranny is action. So taking action, but don't take action without thinking, y'all. Like, we can't just react. Use this
Yeah.
time right now to figure out what we're doing. And then you've got to make some fucking sacrifices. You have to not go to the bar every weekend. You've got to go do something else. Take action. You know, people are going to say, oh, Queer Joy is my happy hour with my friends every week. Sure. Great. That's fantastic. I'm not trying to take that away from you, but let's up the ante a little bit. You can go out Friday night and then go do something Saturday afternoon. You know, like, you've got to find that balance. It's really important that we know who we are and we do what we do well and we support each other too. I hope that's another legacy too, is the idea of showing up, going out there and listening to other people and showing up to what they're creating, what they're doing.
Well, I love that you see your art, your creativity is creating those spaces, because right now we really need those spaces. And anytime I've been to one of your events that you've created that space, I've felt welcomed. And I thank you for that.
Means the world to me. That's the hope, that's the goal, and I'm always so grateful for your support. Seeing in the audience, it's always it puts a big smile on my face. So thank you for that.
All right. So before we wrap up, it's time for kind of my favorite part of the show, my famous
Okay, let's
10
do it.
questions. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
So these are 10 questions inspired by the legendary Inside the Actor Studio with a queer creative twist. So
Love
they're
it.
kind of rapid fire. First
Okay.
question. What's your favorite artistic medium or tool?
So much of the rapid fire. I, I, I would have to say pen and paper. You know, I really do think one of my gifts is a writer, and I have yet to really fully dive into that. It's really
Mhm.
hard to create that, to use those muscles and to create that routine. But I think for me, my favorite is pen and paper, writing something down, telling a story
Nice.
that way, whatever that might be.
What artistic trend or cliche do you wish would disappear?
I don't. Trying to think of friends or um nothing comes to mind, so I'm just gonna take the easy way out and say, you know, creation is beautiful in itself, regardless of what it is. So if it, you know, we just talked about, like, not, you know, action, taking action. if you're taking action and you're creating something that someone else thinks is stupid and should be go away, then you're eliciting a response, in my opinion. And so kudos to you. Um, well, I would say punching down. I don't think we should be
Yeah.
punching. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Comedy. I think we need to raise the bar of comedy. I think we are all smart enough and comedians are smart enough that we don't have to make people don't have to be the punchline just to get a laugh. I think we could raise the bar a little bit. So I'm not too keen on people using these tired approaches to comedy, like the a woman leaves the toilet seat down and a man leaves it up. Do you know how many fucking laughs that gets on Seinfeld to friend? Like even to this day, someone's gonna write that in there and it's gonna get a laugh. And I think it's just fucking dumb and stupid. So like, let's get rid of jokes based on the binary and the stupid ideas of gender. That was like 14 answers. I'm so sorry.
What fuels your creativity the most?
I I think spite.
Spite?
Yeah, I think just like doing the thing that nobody wants or nobody thought about doing, kind of being a little mischievous about it and whimsical.
I can
I think
see
that
that
gives
in
me a lot.
you. I
Yeah,
can
the idea of
absolutely
like,
see
oh,
that in you.
that's fun. Why aren't we doing that? Pushing the envelope, breaking this.
You said I couldn't do that. Let's do it in spite of the fact that you said
Yeah,
I couldn't do that.
absolutely. I don't necessarily like that is part of it, and I saying it like spite is like, ugh. But yeah, I think it is kind of a fuck you. Like I'm going to, even if it fails or if it doesn't go out the way that I want to, I'm going to try it anyways just to see.
What sound or noise instantly inspires you?
I think birds chirping or a child laughing. I think a child laughing just really just
It's in a good mood.
it hits me hard, and it reminds me to stay playful and to engage the childlike elements of who we are that are always there. We may have buried them down, we may have put them in a closet, but they are always there. And when I
Mm-hmm.
hear a child just laughing with that pure expression, it inspires me to do something.
What sound or noise completely kills your focus?
A phone call or a ding or yeah, just it drags my attention away for sure.
What's your favorite word or phrase to include in your creative work, literally or metaphorically?
Um, Two words come to mind: curiosity and unapologetic.
I like those, especially that last one.
Yeah, I would say my youth was unapologetic. As I'm getting older, I'm really like curiosity is grounding me left and right. And so I think there's a mixture of those. You got to have that unapologetic, youthful element to what you do. But then when you can
Mm-hmm.
ground that in curiosity, you're going to discover a whole lot more than you would have before, I think.
If you could see any queer artist, living or dead, honored with a major public monument, who would it be?
Oh, so many, David. Um, I think, and this might exist. I don't know. I should do some research before I answer it. But I think Randy Schultz, who wrote and the band played on, um,
Oh,
that to me is just it's a tome of historical storytelling that is life changing, and I think there needs to be some monuments to him for being able to capture that time period so
vividly.
beautifully and vividly and tragically. That type of journalism, that type of writing is not really seen anymore these days. So I would love for him to get um, a little bit of limelight. Lily Tomlin, oh my god, I love
Oh,
her.
love her.
Um, Zora Neale Hurston, amazing lesbian black playwright. She should get some limelight as well. Yeah.
What is one profession or creative field you could never see yourself in?
I would say anything tech. There's
I don't
creativity there.
recommend it.
Yeah, that's, they say hire your weaknesses. I agree with that. That's a great thing to believe in, but you can also marry your weaknesses. And I'm very lucky with the man that I'm married to. So
You
he
should
is
be.
my
He's
tech
amazing.
guru. He's amazing. So I would never, I couldn't, ugh, no, thank you.
If your art could take on a life of its own, now your art is creating these safe spaces, right? So if your art could take on a life of its own, what form would it take?
Take? Oh, these are fucking great questions, David. Um, I kind of see it as like this big, billowy cloud that
Hmm,
can expand as much as it needs to expand and hold, and it'd be a little bit of a comfort. Um, yeah.
I like that. That gives you a warm feeling when you think about it. And finally, 100 years from now, what do you hope your art or Cinewild says about you to those who find it in the future?
I hope that when people come across anything that I've done Cinewild or um, the art that I create, I hope they feel um, seen. I hope uh, they feel something, honestly. Um, but I hope that it's a sense of comfort and welcoming, even with all the transgressive things that we've talked about. I think at the end of the day, once you push through all of that, uh, if it can be grounded in being seen and being welcoming and being inclusive, is very important to me. I want to make sure that anyone that comes in my path um, feels like they belong there, and they do. I honestly believe that.
Well, I have always felt welcomed and wanted in your presence, and I hope you feel the same. DR, you are probably one of the most amazing, uh, bright souls in the world that I know here in Dallas, at least for sure. And I can't wait to see what's next for you. I love you, brother.
Thank you, my friend. I love you, and I said this last weekend, but I'll say it again. I really do feel like I'm a mirror in these moments. And if you're seeing that reflected, it's because you're also bringing that to the table. And I think
I try.
things that you're doing here with this Salon Natural and this podcast, I hope that people are reflecting that back to you as well, because you're creating something that's really special and needed in Dallas.
Thank you.
And
Well, I can't wait to see you at the next Nude Art Salon.
yeah, what is that next weekend? You've got a new space, is that
Oh,
correct?
yeah, the new space. So, for those of you who follow Salon Natural outside of the podcast, one of the other things I put on is a nude art salon where we gather, hang out socially nude, and create art together. This upcoming one on August 9th is at a new space that I've found here in Dallas. It is a beautiful space, a beautifully welcoming space with ceiling to floor to ceiling windows from one side of the room to the next. It's just got amazing, beautiful light, beautiful energy. And I'm very much looking forward to doing the first salon there.
Yeah, I mean, if you all see the photos, you're gonna want to be there. It's kind of a game changer, especially for if you're doing any type of like sketching, drawing. Like the lighting there is going to be gorgeous. So yeah, I'm excited too, my friend. I'm gonna do
Yeah,
my best to be there.
I hope you can make it. All right. Thanks for
Yeah, me
joining
too.
me.
Thank you,
Take care.
David. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Cheers.
Thanks for joining us in this raw conversation. If this artist's work resonates with you, you can find their social media links in the show notes below. And remember, art thrives when we lift each other up. Tag us at Salon Natural or hashtag Art in the Raw with your reactions. We repost listener art every Friday. Unlock uncensored studio tours, erotic art zines, and voting power on future guests by joining our Substack or Patreon. Links below. If this episode sparked something in you, leave a 5-star review with the word RAW in the title. Algorithms hate us, your voice keeps us visible. This episode was produced by Salon Natural. with editing by David Smith. Original theme music by Exacat. And keep making art that terrifies the censors. This is David Smith. Until next time, stay raw, stay rebellious.